Okay, good afternoon, YouTube. How you all doing? It's Kev here from the Kev Baker Show. Now then, got a really interesting piece of information today, and it arrived via my good friend, physics mentor, Mr. Anthony Patch. Now, he was talking about an announcement that had been made over on New Scientist. Now, what it says here is bigger than the Higgs, bigger even than gravitational waves. And it looks like the LHC may have found a surprise massive particle that gives glimpse into a better and entirely unexpected theory of reality. Now, just look at the actual art that has been included here. Just a quick quote from this. It says, "If it is anything, it is what Jean Judice has been waiting for his entire scientific life. We are not talking about a confirmation of an established theory, but about opening a door into an unknown and unexplored world," says Giudice, a theoretical particle physicist based at CERN. And just quickly, it says the hopes spring from two bumps that have apparently independently in the same place in the latest data from the LHC's two big detectors. What is that? Their phone goes. So, yeah, I've been rudely interrupted there. Why is it all the phone always goes at the inappropriate time? But it says the hopes spring from two bumps that have apparently or appeared independently in the same place in the latest data from the LHC's two big detectors, Atlas and CMS. They point to the existence of a particle that dwarfs even the Higgs boson, the giver of mass particle discovered at CERN in 2012. So let's take a look at this Jean Judice here. Interesting character because he's interested in something called beyond the standard model phenomenology. Oh, wow, try saying that word a couple of times, especially after being up all night near enough to do Mr. Clyde Lewis's show. But more about that in a moment because that kind of ties in with this. So let's look at what my friend Anthony has had to say about this. He includes the article here, today's date. It says, not even on CERN's own PR news section yet. And that's quite interesting, isn't it? Considering this has been dubbed as a LHC CERN discovery. You would think after all the fanfare of the Higgs boson, and more recently, not from CERN, but the world of science in general, with the discovery of those theoretical gravitational waves, if you believe in the Einsteinian and Newtonian model of the universe. However, I'm more of an electrical man. It's all attractions and repulsions and stuff like that. Irrelevant here just now, okay? Because it says, yet this appears as more justification for their continued funding. And of course, this is just like the other day over on the Kev Baker Show. I reported how they had discovered the tetra quark. This is quarks with, electrons with four, or particles with four tetra quarks, making them up. And of course, we've all three quarks. We've got up quarks, down quarks, strange quarks, 6 different flavors of quarks. And of course, when you're looking for billions in funding and trying to justify your work, well, you're going to keep on saying you've discovered this and that. But it's really, really interesting here, the language that they use in this. I think this is key, the language used. But just to quickly cap on what Tony over at anthonypatch.com said, it says, as well as warming up the mainstream media and the public, getting them to view CERN's opening of an interdimensional portal as something wonderful. Quite to the contrary, my friends. More on this announcement as I attempt to vet its authenticity. But then when it comes to CERN, who knows? Until later, cheers, Anthony. Now, it's very important we do confirm this, but one thing I will say, New Scientist, where this comes from, it's a paid publication and some people don't like that. It's one of the few physical magazines that I do actually buy. It really is a good read. A lot of interesting stuff in there. It really makes you think. And Anthony is the guy I go to when I find anything interesting in there, so he can confirm whether there's any likelihood that there's any substance to the story or not. But I'm going to give you my thoughts on this, guys, because just look at this. This is the key bit. Apart from the stargates and the kind of wormholes that we're seeing up here, and what's these entities coming out? More of them in just a moment. Quite key, them. But look at this. We are not talking about a confirmation of an established theory, but about opening a door into an unknown and unexplored world. Well, isn't that almost very, very interesting? Well, it's not almost, it is interesting language, because how long have they spoke about at CERN piercing the veil into other dimensions? And that was why last night's show, very timely, and of course Clyde Lewis, as per usual, ahead of the curve, because he was talking about the magnetic veil around the planet. And of course, as above, so below, when we're talking magnetic veils, let's talk interdimensional veils, the stuff that they're doing at CERN. And then here, two bumps. Hope spring from two bumps that have appeared independently. I take you back to, and the date was May the 1st, 2015. Not shy of a year ago. And it says here, just when you thought things couldn't get any more strange when it comes to CERN, I bring you a story that will have you scratching your head and wondering, and I won't say that there. Just listen to this, guys, because this says it all. This concerns a leading physicist by the name of Albert de Roock. Now, he's actually a staff member at CERN, and he's also a professor at the University of Antwerp in Belgium and UC Davis in California. But not only that, he's the leading scientist on CMS, and that's one of the actual experiments on the LHC collider. Okay, now this is where it starts to get interesting. Now he says that they haven't detected any new signs of any new physics just yet, and he goes on to say, and it quotes, "It will take only one significant deviation in the data to change everything," de Roock said. "The upgraded machine works. Now we have to get the real operation for physics. But the work remains to be done. One issue the accelerator physicists remain cautiously aware of," he said, and this is where it gets woo, folks. He said there is a, quote, "unidentified lying object in the pipe of the LHC's 17-mile underground tunnel, a vacuum tube where proton beams collide and scatter particles." An unidentified object, guys, has just appeared in one of the 17-mile underground tunnels where these particles will be smashed. Okay, so we got that, okay? Nearly a year ago, an unidentified lying object, and this caused a bit of stir at the time on the internet. And think about what our man Goodice was saying. He was saying we've had two bumps. Now, the reason they were able to identify there was an object in the first place, here, Albert de Roock, was because when they were firing the test beams of protons, they were seeing a deviation in the actual stream. Now, he was using very quantum language because he was saying that they weren't going to be able to take a look at it, and he kind of said it tongue in cheek. Now, it says here, the unidentified line object turns out not to be a problem for the operation. It's just something to keep an eye on. It's in the vacuum tube and not a problem, and it's keeping this eye on because the art of observation, okay? Now, did they pierce the veil then? We were theorizing on this, and I do think that this is what they're trying to hint at. I do believe they may well have pierced the veil into the other dimension. And you know, this is where it starts to get really, really strange. And the lines between fact and fiction really do become very, very blurred. Because I'm a big fan of the TV show Fringe, okay? Dr. Walter Bishop. And he is basically the crazy kind of version of my friend Anthony Patch. His fictional character was involved in the kind of MK Ultra dodgy projects back in the day. And he was on, basically, long story short, what happens is he loses a son in this world. Now, what Walter actually goes on to describe in the show via J.J. Abrams, director of Star Wars, Star Trek, the Pentagon's CIA's chosen guy. He goes on to explain that when we make choices in this universe, what happens is there's another separate universe created for the other choices we didn't make. And what he calls this is alter verses. Now, this ties into the real quantum theory, real world, not TV show, of many worlds. And if you think of the double split experiment, where you fire protons or buckyballs or whatever you want to do, photons of light through two slits, well, what happens is when it goes through that slit, we see it eventually, when we observe it, hitting the back wall. But in reality, what's happened is it's split off into so many different shadow copies of itself and created entire new universes. Now, it's a very, very controversial theory because exponentially, very quickly, gets out of hand. Every choice I make, something else happens, creates a new universe, and you can see how it's like Russian dolls, but it gets really, really hard mathematically. But what's interesting is Walter goes over to the other universe, brings his son back, and that has horrible ramifications on the other side, right? Now, this other universe, quite interestingly, when we go back to this here, how I was saying there was an unidentified line object. Well, Walter, the man himself, what he does is he has a bit of technology called a viewing window. Now, this viewing window, get this, it stretches the membrane between the dimensions or the universes, this universe, alter universe, our universe, 9/11 happened, their universe, 9/11 didn't happen. Nice Twin Towers still standing. So when it stretches the membrane, you can see errant photons coming through, and one of the scenes, you see the Twin Towers, and there's Zeppelins up in the sky, airships. It's a totally different universe, but not really, because it's very, very similar too. There's Kev here, and there's Alter Kev. There's Anthony Patch here, there's Alter Anthony Patch. I present on TFR here, and in the other verse, I could very well be the star of X-Files. And Mulder, he might well be hosting the Mulder Show on TFR. Really, really crazy stuff, right? But could it really be, guys, that they have done this? And you know, when we're talking about this viewing window, this is it here, device provides a view into a parallel universe by stretching the membrane between the universe and capturing errant photons. Now, fiction again. Let's blur the lines between that and reality. Wasn't that long ago we were talking about invisible terrestrial entities and the Lucifer telescope, okay? If I just bring this back just a little bit here. Yeah, we'll just let this play here. Check this out, guys. Because just like Walter in the TV show, well, we've got our own technology now to see into dimensions all around us that we didn't even know were there. Check this out.
Since the dawn of our civilization, all the way to the time of this breaking news, we humans believed that everything that exists up there is only what we can see with our eyes and with our optical instruments. Well, things have changed now, because we have established the existence of entities existing in our terrestrial environment, and these entities are completely invisible to our eyes as well as to our optical instruments, but are fully visible with new instruments, therefore dramatically enlarging our conception of the perceivable universe, with far-reaching possibility of future development and discoveries that perhaps are beyond our imagination at this time.
Okay. Get that back a bit. Okay, guys, so we can see entities, okay? And if we just pull it back, we see some of the images here. Yeah, really crazy stuff, right? But remember the picture we've seen back here on New Scientist? This here, these entities. Now, doesn't that look very similar to what we see just there? And you know, Walter in the fringe, He uses this thing here, the viewing window, okay? The world window, it calls it there. Wouldn't it be interesting if it, very much like the real world's Santilli telescope, it uses a concave lensing effect? Because that is what makes this different. And it's used by the Vatican in their Lucifer device, and they're searching for aliens. I'm sitting here trying not to laugh, and it's basically because really sometimes it's hard to tell when I stop talking about the science fiction shows that I like and what's going on in the real world. But we have got a big, major new discovery from CERN that CERN haven't even announced yet. A lot of digging to do on this one, guys, and a lot of speculating on my part. But I hope you enjoyed that. Stay tuned if I find anything more or Anthony brings me up to date with some really verified good information for you. I will be back. I'll be on the Kev Baker Show tonight with the amazing Andrea Fulks from 11 p.m. UK, and that's 6 p.m. on the East Coast, 3 p.m. on the West Coast, truthfrequencyradio.com. Later, YouTube.